We're going to look at cosine law today, but we are only going to look at how to use it for a missing side. So there's also missing angles, but we're just going to focus on sides for today. Okay, so cosine law, similar to our good friend sine law, but not really. So cosine law is also used when you don't have a right triangle. So like this thing. And cosine law would be used on something like this. Like let's say we've got that this is 41 and this is 18 and this is 12. So why can we not use sine law? We can't use sine law because what's missing here? We don't have a pair, right? So we have no pair. No pair. So we are going to use what's called cosine law. Cosine law is not that difficult, but we have to be careful. So it looks something like this. This is the formula. The formula is not that. The formula is c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine of c. So let's take kind of a look at what's happening here. This formula is solving for c. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have told you. We're looking for this side. So this formula is solving for c, and we're missing this side. So doesn't it make sense that we call this missing side c? So I'm going to go ahead and label that c. Well, we know that the angles need to work like as pairs, right? So if that's side C, then this 41 is going to be angle C because it's across from C. Now we're going to call 18 and 12 A and B, and it doesn't actually matter at all which one is which. But what does matter is the C because that's what our formula looks for. And if you come down here, you can see that we're going to need to take the cosine of angle C. So we better know what angle C is. All right, we're just going to start plugging stuff in. So we've got c squared is what we're finding. And then we need to take a squared. Well, a is 18, so 18 squared. Plus b squared. B is 12, so plus 12 squared. Minus, this is all multiplying, 2 times a. A was 18 times b. When things are just written next to each other, that means multiply. B is 12 times the cosine of angle C. Angle C is 41. So the cosine of 41. All right, we're going to put all this into our calculator, and we're going to be very careful about this. You're probably wise to do this in 3 parts. Find 18 squared. Find 12 squared. Find 2 times 18 times the cosine of 41. We need 3 different numbers there. Okay, so C equals, C equals 18 squared is 324. 12 squared is 144, and that's adding. Subtract 2 times 18 times 12 times the cosine of 41. And I did that all as like one giant piece, right? I put that all into my calculator at the same time. And I got 326.03. Okay, add and subtract that all together. So 324 plus 144 minus 326.03. And I get c squared equals 141.97. Okay? Now, that's not the answer. Does it make sense to have a triangle that's 12, 18, and 141? No. Look right here. What is written on the c? This doesn't equal c. It equals c squared. So we need to take the square root of both sides, right? And that's going to give us the square root of 141.97 is 11.91. And that is our answer. Okay, so that's all there is to cosine law. You're never going to have to memorize this formula, but you need to be able to use it, and even more importantly, you need to know when to use it. So remember, you use it when we have no pair. It helps out when you don't have a pair. Now you'll notice that this was written for C, to find C. But what if we were missing A? Well, we can just kind of swap stuff out. So notice here that you've got, it kind of begins and ends with C. So let me show you how this works. We can say, let's say we have a triangle that looks a little differently. What if we have this triangle? And I want you, and you know that this is 30 degrees. And we're looking for this side, and it's told you that this is side A, and that this is angle A, and that we know that B equals 10 and C equals 4. That's not going to work. C equals 40. Okay. If that's the case, here we're looking for A. So that means we need this to be an A. So I can still do that. I can just kind of replace those letters. But if this is going to be A, just like this was C, then I'm going to need the cosine of angle A. Cosine of A. Which, guess what that means I'm going to replace these A's with? I'm going to replace them with C's, right? So I'm going to rewrite this. My A's are going to be C squared. And then the B's are still there, times 2bc times the cosine of A. Does that make sense? I mean, you could also just come over here and relabel your triangle, I guess, but you can rewrite this formula using whatever letter you need. You can do the same thing with b squared. If you're going to start with b, you need to end with b. And that means you're going to replace all of your c's with, or your b's with c's, right? So you're going to have a squared plus c squared minus 2ac. See, do you see what I mean? Like in your first three, you need to have, A, B, and C, right? Like you always have A, B, and C to kind of start, right? Anyway, so the theory behind that is you only need one formula, but it can be like 3 different formulas. Should we do one more example, just like for fun? We can do one more. Let's do one more. All right, let's say we've got, why? Let's do this. Okay, let's say we know that this is 80 degrees, and this is 4, and this is 17, and I want to find this, side A. All right, so I can either decide to not call this A and call this C because it makes my life easier. That's fine too. If that's C, then this is going to be angle C because it's opposite from it. So then I need to call the other two A and B. So my formula is C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2 times A times B times the cosine of C. Okay, C squared, that's what I'm looking for. A is 17 squared. B, 4 squared minus 2 times 17 times 4 times the cosine of C, which is, my C is 80. So I'm going to do this in pieces. 17 squared is 289. 4 squared is 16 minus, remember, crank all that into your calculator and do that all from the beginning. Make sure your calculator's computing cosine of 80 correctly. You might need to put that in first. The cosine of 80 times 2 times 17 times 4, and you should get, you should get 23 23.62. If you're not getting 23.62, you're putting it in your calculator wrong. Okay, put that all together. So 289 plus 16 minus 23.62, and you get 281.38. Last step, square root. And that's going to give you C equals, let's see, the square root of 281.38 is 16.77. And then come over here and ask yourself, does that make sense? Yeah, like those numbers are all reasonable. 4 is really small, 80 is a really wide angle. So it makes sense that this side is about the same size as the other one. Okay, good luck.